Sarah Mitchell stared at the blinking cursor on her computer screen, her fingers hovering over the keyboard as the familiar hum of fluorescent lights filled her otherwise silent office. The message that appeared in her inbox exactly 3 minutes ago shouldn't have existed. Her brother had been dead for precisely 1 year, 2 months, and 15 days. "I need your help, sis. The truth about that night, it wasn't what they told you." The timestamp showed 3:47 a.m., the exact time James had supposedly driven his car off Chapman's Bridge. Her hands trembled as she clicked to examine the email headers, putting her decade of cybersecurity expertise to work. Everything appeared authentic, originating from James's old email address, which had been dormant since his death. Outside her 20th floor office window, Chicago's skyline sparkled against the pre-dawn sky. Sarah pulled up the police report she'd memorized months ago. Vehicle discovered at 4:15 a.m. No signs of foul play. Driver presumed deceased. Body not recovered. The official story had never sat right with her, but grief and logic had eventually won out over suspicion. She clicked reply, knowing it was probably futile. "Who is this?" The response came instantly. "Check the storage unit, box 23. The key is where we used to hide our Halloween candy." Sarah's breath caught in her throat. Nobody knew about their childhood hiding spot, behind the loose brick in their parents' old garage. She hadn't thought about it in 20 years. Her phone buzzed. A text from Detective Martinez, the lead investigator on James's case. "Need to speak with you urgently. New evidence." The timing couldn't be coincidental. Sarah grabbed her coat and car keys, her mind racing through possibilities. As head of cybersecurity for Morton Financial, she knew better than anyone how systems could be compromised, how digital footprints could be fabricated. But that Halloween candy detail, that was impossible to hack. The security guard looked up as she hurried through the lobby. "Leaving early, Ms. Mitchell." "Family emergency, Carl." She managed a tight smile, pushing through the revolving doors into the bitter Chicago winter. Her Tesla chirped as she approached, but before she could reach for the handle, a reflection in the window caught her eye. A figure standing in the shadows of the parking garage. Her heart thundered against her ribs as she spun around, but the space was empty. Sarah slid into the driver's seat, engaging the locks. Her phone buzzed again. "Detective Martinez, DONT GOTUT Sturgeuite." But another email arrived simultaneously. "They're watching. Trust no one. You have 12 hours to find the truth, sis. After that, the evidence disappears forever." The garage's fluorescent lights flickered ominously as Sarah weighed her options. James had been more than her brother. He'd been a brilliant programmer, a whistleblower who'd threatened to expose something big just days before his accident. She'd spent the past year trying to convince herself it was really an accident, that her conspiracy theories were just grief talking. Now this. She started the car, her decision made. The storage facility was 40 minutes away in good traffic. The sun would be rising soon, and with it, the morning rush would begin. Whatever truth waited in box 23, she needed to reach it before anyone else did. As she pulled onto the street, she didn't notice the black SUV that slipped into traffic 3 cars behind her, or the drone that launched from a nearby rooftop, tracking her movement through the sleeping city. The game was already in motion, and Sarah had just made her first move. The storage facility loomed before Sarah like a maze of metal and concrete, its security lights casting long shadows across the empty parking lot. 4:52 a.m., she had exactly 7 minutes before the facility's automated security system would reset, triggering the cameras James had warned her about in a second email she'd read at a red light. Her fingers found the familiar groove of the Tesla's door handle, but she forced herself to wait, scanning the perimeter. The black SUV she'd spotted in her rearview mirror had disappeared 3 turns ago, but instinct told her she wasn't alone. The facility's keypad gleamed in the pre-dawn darkness. Sarah pulled up the email again. Code is Mom's birthday backwards, plus the year I crashed your science project. She smiled despite herself. 6/19/1984. The gate slid open with a mechanical whir that seemed too loud in the silent morning. Unit 23 was in the back corner, partially hidden by a row of larger units. Sarah's flashlight beam caught the padlock, and she reached into her coat pocket for the small key she'd pried from behind the brick at her parents' old house. It had been exactly where James said it would be, untouched for 2 decades. Inside, the unit was empty except for a single cardboard box and a laptop sitting on a metal folding chair. A post-it note on the laptop read, "Run program 23X. Don't connect to any networks." Sarah's phone buzzed again. "Detective Martinez, your brother's case has been reopened. Need you to come in NOW." She silenced the phone and booted up the laptop. The screen flickered to life, revealing a single executable file on the desktop. As a cybersecurity expert, every instinct screamed against running an unknown program. But this was James. He'd taught her everything she knew about coding. The program launched, displaying a command prompt. Enter authentication sequence. What did Dad always say about binary? Sarah's fingers flew across the keyboard. It's just zeros and ones until someone makes it sing. The screen filled with scrolling code, then resolved into a video. James's face appeared, recorded in what looked like his apartment. He looked tired, worried. "Sarah, if you're watching this, I'm either dead or wish I was. What I found in Morton Financial's systems, it goes deeper than money laundering. They're using their AI trading algorithms to manipulate more than just markets. The pattern recognition software we developed, they're using it to predict and influence global events, elections, conflicts, resource distribution, all of it." Sarah's breath caught. She'd helped design that software. "The evidence is encrypted in this system, but I've split the key. Half is in the program you just ran. The other half..." James looked over his shoulder in the video. "Remember the game we used to play? Binary stars, binary code, check our old telescope. You have until sunrise tomorrow. After that, the failsafe triggers." The video ended, leaving Sarah with more questions than answers. She checked her watch, 5:13 a.m. The security system would be live now. A sound outside made her freeze. Footsteps, trying to be quiet, but echoing in the concrete corridors. Sarah quickly pocketed the laptop and eased the unit's door closed. Wincing at the metallic scrape, the footsteps were closer now, accompanied by the soft crackle of a radio. Unit 23 confirmed. Subject inside. Sarah killed her flashlight and pressed herself against the wall, mind racing. The unit had no other exit. The ventilation duct above was too small. Her phone showed no signal. They must be using a jammer. The footsteps stopped outside her unit. A voice spoke quietly. "MM's Mitchell. This is Agent Carson, FBI. We need you to come out slowly with your hands visible." FBI. Or someone else using that cover. James's warning echoed in her mind. Trust no one. Sarah reached into her pocket, fingers closing around the small device she'd grabbed from her office. An electromagnetic pulse generator prototype she'd been testing. One burst would kill every electronic device within 30 feet, including the security cameras and any weapons with electronic components. The lock rattled. "Last warning, Ms. Mitchell." Sarah took a deep breath and pressed the button. The electromagnetic pulse did exactly what Sarah had designed it to do. Darkness crashed down as every electronic device in range went dead. Through the chaos of surprised shouts and crackling radios, she counted to 3 and burst through the unit's door, shouldering past the startled agents. Her years of marathon training paid off as she sprinted through the maze of storage units. The main gate would be locked without power, but she'd memorized the facility's layout from satellite images. There was a maintenance gap in the fence behind Building C. "Stop. Federal agents." A flashlight beam cut through the darkness, followed by the distinct sound of boots on concrete. Sarah ducked left, then right. using the units as cover. The first hint of dawn painted the eastern sky, providing just enough light to navigate. The gap in the fence appeared exactly where she expected, partially hidden behind overgrown bushes. Sarah squeezed through, ignoring the bite of sharp wire on her coat. Her Tesla would be useless now, but she'd parked facing downhill for exactly this reason. She reached the car just as floodlights blazed to life, backup generators. The agents were spreading out, covering all exits. Sarah yanked the driver's door open and threw the car into neutral, letting gravity pull her down the sloping access road. As the Tesla picked up speed, she spotted the black SUV moving to intercept. The vehicle's profile was wrong for FBI military grade, probably private contractors. James's warning about trusting no one seemed more relevant by the second. The telescope. She needed to get to their old observation spot. The question was whether she could make it before sunrise and before whoever was chasing her caught up. Sarah's phone was dead, but she'd memorized the coordinates years ago. The spot had been their sanctuary, a hidden clearing in the woods behind their childhood home, where they'd spent countless nights studying the stars. More importantly, it was where they'd developed their first encryption algorithm, based on the binary star systems they observed. The Tesla rolled to a stop 2 blocks away. Sarah grabbed the laptop and her emergency bag from the trunk, then cut through a residential area, keeping to the shadows. The sound of sirens filled the air, but they were moving in the wrong direction. The EMP had bought her some time by disrupting their communications. Dawn was approaching fast. She needed transportation. As if answering her thoughts, a city bus rounded the corner. The electronic payment system would be down, but she had cash. 5 minutes later, she was headed west, watching police vehicles race past in the opposite direction. The bus driver gave her an odd look when she requested a stop near the old state park entrance. But Sarah was already moving before the doors fully opened. The path to their observation spot was overgrown, but still visible. They'd worn it into the earth over years of late night astronomy sessions. The clearing looked exactly as she remembered, a natural amphitheater facing east, with a flat rock perfect for setting up telescopes. Their old equipment cache, hidden in a hollow tree, hadn't been touched in 15 years. Sarah retrieved the rusted tin box, her fingers finding the combination lock through muscle memory. Inside lay their first telescope, a cheap refractor that had sparked their shared passion for astronomy and coding. The telescope's main tube was empty, the optics long gone. But when Sarah unscrewed the focuser, a small USB drive fell into her palm. James had always loved hiding things in plain sight. She booted up the laptop, praying it had survived the EMP. The screen flickered reluctantly to life, battery at 15%. The USB drive contained a single text file. The truth isn't in the stars, sis. It's in the spaces between them. Run the pattern recognition algorithm on Project Eclipse's trading data from last October. You'll see it, the same pattern we found in Epsilon Aurigae's light curve. They're not predicting the future. They're writing it. P.S. I'm not dead. Meet me where we saw our first lunar eclipse. You have until midnight. Love, J. Sarah stared at the message as sunrise painted the sky in brilliant oranges and reds. Behind her, a twig snapped. She spun around to face Detective Martinez, who stood at the edge of the clearing with his weapon drawn. "Hello, Sarah," he said quietly. "I think it's time we talked about your brother." Sarah kept her hands visible but didn't move. Martinez's stance was textbook police academy. But something felt off, his grip too precise, his shoes too expensive for a detective's salary. "The brother you declared dead 6 months ago?" Sarah asked, buying time as she assessed escape routes. The clearing had 3 potential exits, all partially obscured by the morning mist rolling in from the valley. "We both know that paperwork was premature." Martinez took a measured step forward. "James is very much alive, and what he stole from Morton Financial could destabilize global markets. We need those files, Sarah. We, being whom? Exactly. Because that badge you're carrying doesn't look FBI issued. A slight smile crossed Martinez's face. Perceptive, like your brother. It's why Morton recruited both of you for Project Eclipse. Your pattern recognition abilities are exceptional. Sarah's mind raced through the implications. The trading algorithm she and James had developed was meant to identify market trends, not manipulate them. But if someone had modified their code, the binary star patterns, she said slowly, they weren't just an encryption key, were they? James found something in the data correlations. Your brother discovered that patterns repeat, Ms. Mitchell. In stars, in markets, in human behavior. With enough computing power and the right algorithms, everything becomes predictable. And what's predictable can be controlled. Sarah finished. The scope of it hit her. They weren't just trading stocks. They were orchestrating global events. A bird called out somewhere in the trees. Martinez's eyes flickered toward the sound, and Sarah moved. She threw the laptop at his face and dove right, rolling behind the boulder as his weapon discharged. The shot went wide, splintering bark from a nearby tree. Sarah sprinted down the eastern path, the one she and James had used as kids to watch lunar eclipses. Behind her, Martinez barked commands into a radio. The path descended sharply through dense undergrowth. Sarah's boots slipped on wet leaves, but she kept moving. James's message played in her mind, their first lunar eclipse. They'd watched it from the old water tower on the edge of town. A helicopter thundered overhead, searchlight sweeping the canopy. Sarah pressed herself against a tree trunk, controlling her breathing. The forest was waking up, morning light filtering through the leaves. She needed to reach the water tower before midnight, but first, she had to shake her pursuers. Her phone was still dead from the EMP, but she'd memorized the area's topology years ago. The creek bed to her left led to the railroad tracks. If she followed them west, more voices echoed through the trees. They were coordinating, trying to herd her toward the park's main entrance. Sarah smiled grimly and went the opposite direction, descending into the creek bed. The water was numbingly cold, but it would mask her thermal signature from any infrared cameras. She waded downstream, keeping her movements smooth to avoid splashing. The helicopter's sound faded, searching the wrong area. After 10 minutes, she climbed out on the opposite bank and oriented herself. The railroad tracks were close. She could hear a freight train in the distance. But first, she needed to understand what she'd found. Sarah pulled out the USB drive, miraculously dry in its waterproof case. The pattern James had mentioned in Epsilon Aurigae's light curve. It was a binary star system that appeared to dim irregularly. They'd studied it because the patterns seemed random but weren't. Just like the market fluctuations their algorithm had identified. But if Morton Financial was using their code to manipulate global events, they'd need massive computing power, far beyond normal trading systems. The kind of infrastructure that would leave a signature. The train's rumble grew louder. Sarah checked her watch, 6:47 a.m. She had 17 hours to reach the water tower and find James. 17 hours to prevent whatever failsafe he'd warned about. She began moving toward the tracks, mind working through possibilities. James wouldn't have gone public with the information, too easy to discredit or suppress. No, he'd have hidden it somewhere only she could find, using the encryption schemes they developed as kids. The train appeared around the bend, moving slowly as it approached a crossing. Sarah took a deep breath, timing her approach. One car, then another, behind her, a shout went up. They'd found her trail. Sarah broke into a sprint, calculating angles and velocities like she used to calculate stellar orbits. At the last possible moment, she grabbed a ladder rung and swung herself onto the moving train. As the forest fell away behind her, Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Martinez had been right about one thing: patterns did repeat. And right now, she was following one that started 20 years ago, when two kids with a telescope discovered that the universe ran on binary. The water tower loomed against the starlit sky, its silhouette exactly as Sarah remembered from their childhood. She checked her watch, 11:47 p.m., 13 minutes until midnight. The train had taken her west, away from Martinez and his team, but she knew they'd be watching this location. James's message wasn't just for her. It was a breadcrumb trail for their pursuers. The question was why he wanted them here. Sarah circled the tower's base, staying in the shadows. The access ladder was still there, though now marked with a faded, "No trespassing" sign. A security camera was mounted nearby, but its power indicator was dark, another EMP, precisely targeted. She began climbing, each rung familiar under her hands. They'd made this climb dozens of times as teenagers, racing to the observation platform to watch celestial events. The last time had been 15 years ago, during the lunar eclipse, when they'd first conceived the pattern recognition algorithm. At the top, James was waiting. "Right on time, sis," he said, not turning from his laptop setup. Multiple screens displayed scrolling data market feeds, satellite imagery, and what looked like astronomical calculations. "Though you almost didn't make it past Martinez. You knew they were watching me." It wasn't a question. Had to make it look convincing. James finally faced her, looking older than his 35 years. "They needed to believe you found the USB drive by accident, while they were really tracking the quantum key embedded in it." Sarah finished, understanding clicking into place. "You used our old binary star encryption to create a digital trail. They've been following it all day." James smiled. "Morton's quantum computing division has been trying to crack our original algorithm for months. They thought the USB drive would lead them to the master key, but it led them here instead." Sarah moved to the railing, scanning the darkness below. Movement caught her eye: tactical teams taking positions around the tower's base. "We're surrounded. That's the point." James typed a command, and the screens shifted to show a global network diagram. In 90 seconds, Morton's trading algorithm will execute its largest operation yet. They're planning to trigger a synchronized collapse of major markets, creating chaos they can control, unless we stop it. Sarah studied the network topology. The quantum key they're tracking, it's not just a decryption tool, is it? It's a kill switch. Once they try to crack it, it'll broadcast the evidence of their manipulation to every financial regulator simultaneously. But it only works if they use their full quantum computing network to decode it. Floodlights suddenly illuminated the tower. A helicopter approached, searchlight sweeping across them. Martinez's voice boomed through a megaphone. "This is your only warning. Surrender the files now." Sarah checked the time: 11:59 p.m. "They're cutting it close." "They have to," James said, fingers flying across the keyboard. "Their algorithm requires total market synchronization." The window opens in 30 seconds. The helicopter circled closer. Sarah could see snipers taking position in nearby buildings. "If they shoot us, they'll never get the key." "They won't shoot. They need—" James stopped as his screens suddenly flashed red. "They're in. They're trying to brute force the encryption." Sarah watched the attack patterns scroll past, recognizing the quantum signatures. "They're using everything they have, their entire network. Just like a binary star system," James said softly. "Two massive objects locked in orbit, each affecting the other. They're quantum computers and our kill switch, moving toward the inevitable." The screens erupted with data. Sarah recognized trading algorithms collapsing, failed safes activating, and encrypted documents flooding onto public servers. The helicopter's searchlight wavered as its electronics fluctuated. "Eclipse complete," James announced as the first news alerts began appearing. Morton's trading empire is about to go supernova. Martinez's voice crackled through the chaos. All units, arrest protocols suspended. Primary target has initiated total system breach. Withdraw immediately. Repeat. Withdraw immediately. They watched as the tactical teams melted away into the darkness. The helicopter retreated, its sound fading into the night. Below, car engines started and emergency vehicles began converging on Morton Financial's headquarters. "Think they'll come after us?" Sarah asked, though she already knew the answer. "They'll be too busy trying to survive the investigations." James began shutting down his equipment. "Besides, everything's public now. The patterns are exposed." Sarah looked up at the stars, the same view they'd had during that first lunar eclipse. "What now?" "Now," James smiled. "Now we go back to studying real binary stars. The ones that follow natural patterns, not manipulated ones. Just like that. Just like that." He shouldered his bag. "Though I hear the European Space Agency is looking for pattern recognition experts. Apparently, they're detecting some interesting signals from Alpha Centauri." Sarah laughed for the first time in days. "Another binary system." "Of course." James started toward the ladder. "Coming." She took one last look at the city below, then followed her brother down. Sometimes, she reflected, the most complex patterns led to the simplest solutions. Like two siblings, two stars, two choices, all moving in perfect synchronization toward a single point of truth.